Welcome to the Faith and Business Podcast. I am your host, Elle Edwards, founder of the Faith and Business Playground. I'm here with Bible-friendly brain gymnastics and mentoring to help you embrace your inner weirdo so you can choose happy every single day. I know this is not about happiness, pie in the sky, burying our heads in the sand. This is about delivering actual real world tools, brain science that, based on the stuff that God gave us so that you can choose to implement stuff and show up there and shine. I want to empower you together with me and the other Jesus geeks who are joining together. I want us together to reclaim what it means to be Christian. That's my ultimate motive behind all of this, is I want you to be so filled to the top with God's love and generally happy every single day that it bubbles out of you and can't help but impact the people around you. Now, all this week, of course, we are talking about uncertainty. Because like I already said, this isn't about going, no, every day is wonderful, burying our heads in the sand. It's not about that. It's about facing the realities of life and applying these tools. And so, like I say, this week we are focusing on uncertainty. Now, if you listened in yesterday, you'll have heard me remind you to start with a great big dose of certainty. I gave you Joshua 1 verse 9. Today, I'm here to remind you that your uncertainty is not all pervasive. Now, there's an important reason why I'm reminding you of that. Because let's rewind slightly. If you get yourself in the situation where life feels uncertain, if there's something specific that's really doing your head in right now because you don't know the answer, there is a temptation to just sort of throw in the towel and believe that no matter what happens, everything is uncertain. You don't know. You're never going to know. It's a disaster. It's the worst thing ever. And the reality is that actually the uncertainty that you're experiencing, more likely than not, is not all pervasive. It's not every single area of your life. So I want you to consider for a moment, specifically, what is it that feels uncertain right now? Or what is the question that you are needing the answer to in your life right now? And there might be a number of parts to it, and it might feel big and overwhelming. You might have some big decisions to make. I get that. But my argument to you today, my reminder to you today, is that no matter how uncertain you're feeling about this particular area of your life, there will be other areas of your life where you are certain. Now, the reason why this is important is that when we go around, have a look at the work around optimism versus pessimism, one of the key markers of somebody who is pessimistic, and a pessimist is the next step down, can spiral downwards and end up getting to depression and really struggling. And it gets hard to get back up from there. One of the key markers of that pessimism is that all-pervasiveness. Those problems in life, they are covering all of the things, every area of life. We call it catastrophizing, is another word you might have heard to describe this. So when you start to think about your uncertainty as covering all of the things, all of life, all encompassing, that's the natural mindset of somebody who tends to go down that pessimistic route. And my goal for you is to help you become an optimist. Even if you'd say, well, Elle, I'm sorry, I'm just naturally pessimistic. Doesn't matter. You can learn to be an optimist. I can help train you to be an optimist. You have to practice. I can't click my fingers or wave a magic wand. But you can use the brain that God gave you and apply actual scientific stuff. That's not very scientific, is it? But actual scientific practices to help you be more optimistic. And one of those things starts right now today with you recognizing that uncertainty you're feeling is not covering every single area of your life. But let's just pause for a moment and give you a Bible verse. This is one of my favorites, and it's talking about planning, and it's Jeremiah 29. And I'm reading from verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. How encouraging is that? I love that verse so much. And yes, again, it's another Old Testament verse. And yes, okay, God is speaking to a particular person in time, but it's in our Bible. So the fact that it's in the Bible means that you can claim it as your own. And so God is saying to you, he knows the plans that he has for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Now, the reality is that we don't have the plans from God written down on a piece of paper. Now, I don't know about you, I have had experiences in the past where you sit down, okay, God, what are we going to do? Happens with the podcast, in fairness. Like I've mentioned yesterday, this week's series of episodes are inspired by a question over in the playground. So having had that question, and we're going to dig into the specific question that was asked, I think tomorrow or the next day, I'll get to that. But so make sure you subscribe if you're not already, so you don't miss out. But having had that inkling of an idea, I then sat down with my notebook and said, right then, God, what are we going to do with this? And then these ideas pop into my head. And you've probably had similar experiences yourself where you can feel like God is really leading you and guiding you. But what we don't tend to get from God is a Noah's Ark type blueprint. Like God told Noah very clearly, make the ark out of this kind type of wood, make it these measurements. Same with Solomon and the temple. They had very clear guidelines on how to build it. You and I don't get that. So it is quite easy sometimes to go, oh, everything is uncertain, I just don't know. And we spiral downwards and we feel, mild depression sets in. And if we don't reach out and have conversations and, use those tools to lift out, it can go on and on and on and on. So these plans that God has for you, you may not have a blueprint for them. But first of all, just be encouraged that actually God does know. And we touched on this yesterday as well. That reminder that no matter how uncertain it feels to you, God does know. But what I want you to do today, and the specific reason for that is to do with this pessimist versus optimist piece. I want you to think about and consider and write down or bring to mind examples in your life right now today of things that you are certain of. Okay, so no matter how uncertain life feels, no matter how much questioning you've got going on around you, what do you know? What are those certainties? So if you live in a house with an address and maybe a mortgage and bricks and mortar, maybe the one certainty is that you know where you're sleeping tonight. Okay, and I know that sounds oversimplified, and yes, it is. But sometimes we have to go simple. If life is really all over the place, start simple. So start thinking about and writing down and considering, okay, what am I certain of? And I already read to you yesterday that verse from Joshua 1, giving you that big dose of certainty. Another certainty, therefore, that you can cling on to is God. Jesus, God, through what Jesus did on the cross, God is your rock, he is your certainty. And you can know that in Romans 8, 11, 12, whatever it is, where it talks about nothing can separate you from God's love. And yes, I totally should have looked that up beforehand, but I start talking and I share whatever God pops on my heart. So haven't got it in front of me. I want to say Romans 8, but there is that certainty. You can be certain that no matter what else, you are loved. But I want you to think about some really concrete examples in your life and get specific. Because what you are doing when you are actually looking for those concrete examples, you say, okay, this specific thing feels uncertain, and this specific thing feels uncertain, but this and this and this and this, I'm certain of. And it actually helps your brain to start realizing, okay, and you move forward with potential. The other really lovely thing, and this won't be the last time this week I mention it, but the other really lovely thing about taking time to articulate specifically what feels uncertain, it allows your brain to start working on the problem. Helps your brain to start filling in the gaps. Your brain loves to fill in the gaps. It wants to prove you right, and it wants to help give you answers. And so when you actually articulate, these are the things that I'm specifically feeling uncertain about, you're actually activating a reticular activating system, back of your brain. One of my favorite ever things I love to talk about, as you might know if you listen along for a little while. Your brain will help you start filtering your examples as well. So that's the other really lovely thing. Whereas if your language is around this all-encompassing, everything is uncertain, I don't know, I'm never going to know, there's never going to have a solution, guess what? Your brain will prove you right, and it will filter in examples to prove how uncertain life is feeling. Why does your brain work like that? That's just the way it works. If every single piece of information that comes, every single thing that, what's the word I'm looking for? Forgotten. If every single piece of data, we'll call it that for want of a better word, if you actually consciously notice every single stimuli, that was what I was looking for, if every single stimuli you actually noticed and had to process manually, you'd go bonkers. That's why your brain acts as a filter instead. And that's why it's important, as much as possible, God helping you with the support of things like this podcast and the community at the playground, start thinking about those things that you do know. Where in your life are you certain? That's your little bit of homework for today. And if you are in the playground already and you want to share some of your answers to that homework, do it. You've got the space there to do that. And if you're not a member of the playground and you love the work that we're doing here on the podcast and you want to come and join us, faithandbusinessplayground.com is the link you need. I shall be back tomorrow, but in the meantime, thank you for being here. Take care. Bye-bye.